Hello, I'm Pam Fox. Thanks for tuning into my channel today. Today I am back in my car. I haven't done a video in my car in a long time. I started my YouTube channel in my car because I didn't want anyone to know that I had a YouTube channel. I didn't even tell my husband or my kids or anybody. But I had to get out this information, this life-saving information that I'd experienced from going on a plant-based diet. I had to get it out somehow. So I started this YouTube channel, and I would just find a private spot. Usually I would come here to the beach. I live on the Long Beach Peninsula. Today is a gorgeous day. It's days like this that I love living here. It's perfect. We don't get a lot of days like this, unfortunately, but we enjoy them when we get them. But I have a half day today, and I shot this video on Monday, and first I won't get into it, but I have to reshoot it because of technical difficulties. I'm just continually learning about YouTube and cameras and uploading and compressing and all of the fun stuff that comes with having a YouTube channel. Okay, so what I want to talk about is this book. Dr. Neal Barnard's program for reversing diabetes, the clinically proven system for reversing diabetes without drugs. There's Dr. Barnard. He is so handsome. I ran into him coming out of the restroom at the Portland Veg Fest last year, and I've been following him since I became a vegan. And I said, "Hi, Dr. Barnard." I was all excited, and he's just the nicest guy. He's like, "Oh, hi." He's really kind of corny, actually, but I like corny, so super nice guy. But he is the president of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. I'll link that website below. It's got a lot of great information on it, and he started conducting his own studies. Gosh, I had the page marked, and I've already lost it, on diabetes. Putting his patients on a plant-based diet. I'm just going to do a quick review of this book. That's what today's video is about. I don't have diabetes. I know a lot of people who have diabetes. It runs in my family, both on my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family. And I know a lot of people with diabetes. And according to Dr. Neal Barnard, it's a reversible disease with nutrition alone. In his experience, many of his patients get off their medications entirely. Some of them can have to continue their medications, but they at least get to decrease their medications, and their health improves significantly. So the first study he did, I'm not going to go over all the studies in this book because he actually refers to many, but the first study he conducted with his own research team was on a small study with 13 patients, and 2/3 of the patients improved so much they were able to reduce or eliminate their medications within 12 weeks. And that study was published in Preventive Medicine in 1999. And then the second study he did was with 59 patients where insulin sensitivity improved by 24%. Again, this is on a plant-based diet. And so then the next study he conducted, which I think was what inspired him to write this book because of the results, was he had 99 patients, and he had half of them go on a plant-based diet, and the other half do the standard, not the standard American diet, but the standard diet that you're put on, through the American Diabetes Association, that a doctor will put you on if you're diagnosed with diabetes. So 2/3 of this book is the book, and the last third is all recipes. And I've actually never tried any of the recipes. They look really good, though. I really need to. They look delicious. So he talks about a lot of different studies in the book and their results. He does talks about some of the people and their personal experiences going on the diet, and what happened to them. So it's comprehensive in terms of, it's not just all scientific stuff in there, which I really appreciate. But he talks about the cause of type 2 diabetes. He also talks about the cause of type 1 diabetes, which I'm not going to get into. I will post a link for this book below if you want to order it on Amazon, or if you know me and you want to borrow my copy, just ask. I just gave away, I had 2 copies. I gave one away, or I loaned it out. But he talks about the reason we have type 2 diabetes. So conventionally, when we go in and we get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, we will be put on like I said, the American Diabetes Association standard diet to help us manage our diabetes, you know. And then we may be put on medications as well. Probably not in the beginning, maybe not, but eventually. That's pretty typical that you end up, you know, taking medications to manage your diabetes. And so if you're like me, all your life you've heard, you know, about diabetes and how if you eat too much sugar, you could get diabetes. And Dr. Neal Barnard takes this a step deeper. He looks to find out what actually causes diabetes, and it's not, according to him, the sugar. And according to many other doctors, not just him. This isn't really, I don't think it's considered controversial stuff, but I know that, like, when we have diabetes specialists here in my local town come to where I work to do like a workshop, they don't talk about any of this stuff. They talk about the standard American Diabetes Association diet. They don't recommend a plant-based diet, which again, reversing diabetes on a plant-based diet. So getting off of your medications and no longer suffering from the symptoms and risks that come along with type 2 diabetes. So what is the cause then, according to Dr. Neal Barnard? Well, it's dietary fat. And I've talked about this a lot on this channel, but just really briefly, I can't talk about it enough because diabetes is, I think, our second or third killer in this country. It affects a lot of people, and they're predicting that it's going to grow to, like, I don't even know, some 2 in 5 people in the next 20 years or something will have type 2 diabetes. So it's a pretty big deal. And so I just think this information is so important to get out, because it takes care of the problem by just simply changing your diet. And I know a lot of people think that going on a plant-based diet is extreme and they could never do it, but more and more people are finding it's not as hard as they think it will be. It does take some time to get used to it and start to really enjoy the alternative foods that you're eating. But, you know, you get to enjoy generous portions. He puts that on the back of his book cover. Enjoy delicious foods in generous portions. Cut back on diabetes medications, if not eliminate them completely. Reduce your risk of diabetes complications. Realize bonus health benefits as you take off unwanted pounds. Lower your cholesterol and blood pressure and boost your energy. So see, these are some of the things you can expect to happen on a plant-based diet. Woohoo! So what is the cause of type 2 diabetes? So when we eat food, the pancreas secretes insulin, and it's the insulin's job to, I've heard it said many different ways. I've heard it said to usher the glucose, to escort the glucose. It's the key that unlocks the door of the cell so the glucose can enter in. So I like to imagine a cell, and then here comes the sugar that needs to get into the cell so that we can have energy, because that sugar is our body's fuel. It is the fuel that goes into the fuel tank that gives us energy. So if we have that cell, and the insulin's job is to help that sugar enter into the cell, and so what happens with type 2 diabetes is the insulin isn't able to help the sugar into the cell, and so then you've got blood glucose or sugar, blood sugar, roaming around in your body, and then you're told you have type 2 diabetes because the sugar's not able to get into the cell. And so what's that have to do with fat? Well, when we consume a diet high in dietary fat, the standard American diet where we eat a lot of animal foods, we only have so many fat cells in our body, and so they fill up and then they can overflow, and then we get fat in other places around our organs, and we actually get fat within the cells of our muscle, tiny little lipids within the actual cells of the muscle. And so he describes this as the insulin trying to unlock the door of the cell so the sugar can get in, but it can't because the lock is jammed with fat. That's the way he explains it, and I think that's a really good way to understand, oh, somebody just got stuck in the sand. This will be interesting. So it's the dietary fat. And so then if we go on a plant-based diet, we reduce the amount of fat in our body. We start to lose weight. We reduce, we clean out that fat. And so now the insulin can do the job it was meant to do, which is unlock that door of the cell so that the sugar can be escorted in and fill up that fuel tank. The cell being the fuel tank, the sugar being the fuel. And when I talk about sugar, I'm referring to a plant-based diet. So, when I'm referring to plants, which are predominantly carbohydrate, that is converted to glucose, which is sugar. So I'm not referring to like cakes and candy bars and that kind of thing, which usually have a lot of fat in them. So then you're eating dietary, a diet that's got a lot of fat and sugar in it, which is a perfect storm for type 2 diabetes. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to mention, really important that he talks about in this book, is mitochondria. So within our cells, we have what's known as, they're described as little furnaces that are responsible in part for our metabolism. And those furnaces are known as mitochondria. And he talks about a lot of studies in here where they actually studied mitochondria. Mitochondria in people on a plant-based diet are effective, they're numerous, they're healthy, and so then we have a healthy, metabolism. In people who eat a diet that is high in dietary fat, saturated fat particularly, they find fewer mitochondria. So that the diet high in saturated fat not only inhibits the mitochondria, but because we're eating a diet that is low, in plants, vegetables and fruits and so forth, we aren't, those are the foods that actually promote and boost mitochondria. So we're eating the foods that, inhibit and weaken mitochondria, and we're not eating the foods that do the opposite of that. So then when we go on a plant-based diet, again, we get rid of a lot of the fat so the insulin can start to work more effectively, and we boost our mitochondria, which then improves our metabolism. So that's really important to note. So that's it. That's all I'm going to talk about. A lot of great stuff in this book, and I will link it below. But June is coming to an end. So those of you who have been doing the 30-day challenge, this month's 30-day vegan challenge, again, I want to congratulate you and continue to encourage you on your new journey. I know it can be difficult in the beginning. I know for a lot of people, when I started my first 30-day vegan challenge, I was told, 2 to 3 weeks, I would start to reset my palate and really start to enjoy the flavor of these new foods I was eating, so the foods wouldn't seem so bland. It took me more around 45 days, closer to 2 months, to where I started to really say, gosh, my food is, I'm really enjoying my food. So it does take time to cleanse and reset the palate, whatever that means. So I just want to encourage you to stick to it. If you're struggling, if you're thinking, the food is bland, really continue to experiment in the kitchen and try new things and really eat the foods that you love. I can't stress this enough. So for me, like spaghetti is one of my favorite foods, and I found plant-based spaghetti really boring. So when we started adding in mushrooms and zucchini, and for me, olives, I love olives. To me, they're so filled with flavor. This was a game changer. Herbs like onion powder and garlic salt. Don't be afraid to use salt. I mean, if you're eliminating processed foods, you're eliminating a huge source of dietary salt. So it's okay to add some salt to your food, sprinkle it on your food. So eat the foods you love. Think of the foods that you love that have a lot of flavor. Like if you love spicy foods or onions, foods like that, put them on your food. They're going to add a lot of flavor and make them enjoyable for you because you enjoy those things. One thing that people find really difficult is cheese. So cheese adds a great mouthfeel. It adds a lot of salt. It adds just a lot of complex flavors to foods. And without it, we find our foods are really bland. So just know that in time you will overcome this. Stick to the diet and try experimenting with nutritional yeast. Some vegans can't get enough of their nutritional yeast. They love it. I hated it in the beginning, but then I tried Bragg's nutritional yeast and I actually enjoy that. A little goes a long way. But I would just advise you to try to stay clear of the processed foods as much as possible. Incorporate them in if you feel the need to, but just very modestly. Incorporate them in modestly. like your vegan cheeses, if you can find one that you like, or your, you know, your vegan sausages and meats and these types of replacement foods. Incorporate them in modestly, because the longer you eat these foods, the longer it's going to take for your palate to truly reset and start to enjoy the flavors of just, you know, plain old plant foods. Another thing that I recommend is incorporating and experimenting with a lot of spices. Buy the best quality spices that you can find. Make sure there's no MSG in your spices or a lot of additional preservatives. Buy organic if you can. But things like if you're doing a Mexican dish, things like cumin and chili powder and onion powder and garlic powder, these things can add a lot of flavor and variety. And if you're cooking soups or casseroles or pastas, if you can find a good quality chicken bouillon that's vegan, so these are like a vegetable broth that have garlic powder and onion powder and salt in them that give them a lot of flavor, and can add a real salty, buttery flavor to your meals. That can really add a lot. So that's another great tip, is to find some type of and again, watch the ingredients on these products. Sometimes they have whey, sometimes they have MSG. So just find the best quality one possible. Okay, so I'm going to be posting this hopefully today and wrapping up this month. Tomorrow's the 30th, I believe, of June 2017, and so we'll be starting a new challenge in July. So hope you'll tune in for that. As always, I am very excited about it, and I'll be posting more on that later. All right, so that's it. I hope you have an awesome day. Thanks for watching.